I talked about Daisetz and Jung, their meeting, and their Daisetz's comment was something of the nature of that Jung's approach may have limitation, and that's posted in the other video. After that, I watched few videos and came to the same conclusion at the time, as much as Daisetz said that Jung's approach to me is still related to the typical Western approach of reductionism, if you call that. There's the models and assumptions, and put the like archetypes, for example, or what's the word? Collective unconsciousness. That's sort of okay, but it's still too scientific without much proof. So the point I felt was the experience base. So his idea is to put the net around our consciousness, subconsciousness, and all of that. And that was an important step to have a language, models, words to describe what could be. So as much as it's like a scientific, rational way of thinking, he attempted that, except that the proof of it is still weak. Perhaps in this case, it was based upon his own experience with dealing with various clients and the summary of different reports and findings, including cultural background, mythology, all of that stuff. That reminds me of Campbell mythology. Anyway, back to the Zen idea. I was talking to, I think this was the Gemini I used to explain how I felt about Jung's collective unconsciousness idea and archetypes by pointing what I just shared. But it's already in the dialogue between me and Gemini, so I'll be posted in the description so you can take a look at it. But what I found is that at least my view of what Gemini responded was in line to what I was talking, that the Zen is very experience-based, not the model, logic-based. So the notion of the brain and heart, I call it two dimensions, are different. Again, brain is words, logic, all that. Heart is beyond that. Direct experience, absolute situation of how the universe is operating, and that's the core of who we are. So as far as we are born as this living being, and the fact that we are alive is not because of the mind. Mind is added on when we got kicked out of the Garden of Eden, so to speak. So that's one dimension. I call it, if we use the word fakeness, it's a screen on the computer. We think it's reality. Different models and ideas, you can process it and have a story there. But it's just the element of what is, not the whole of it. So that the direct experience of what is happening between those two dimensions, two universes, I call it. One is the brain or the mind universe, the other one is the heart and body universe. That gap is a paradoxical relationship and only be connected or awakened when there is a direct experience of awakening. That's the Zen idea, that they don't dwell on the models and the logic because it only happens in the mind, which is in essence fake. But to realize fake is the wisdom or even awakening, and that's the key element of Zen. So in the previous video I mentioned about the Daisetz and Jung, I was referring to Jung's 20-page long foreword for the book by Daisetz called The Introduction of Zen Buddhism or something like that. And I think my gut feel is that at the time I thought Jung did a very strong, heavy-duty effort to have a good forward, but still I think there's a huge gap between what Daisetz was thinking at the time that may not have been resolved the way I take it. Again, my analysis or thinking, well, analysis may not be the right word because it goes back to the brain, but based upon the Zen experience of awakening and what is on the platform, the plate of how we deal with this structural issue. If you don't know there are two dimensions, two universes, it's already lost. The game is lost. But his use of unconsciousness kind of ties to that heart and body functioning. So his use of the word be conscious of unconscious is a Zen-like phrase, which I was very attracted. But at the end, out of that model of the be conscious of unconscious, he made it in a model that is better understood for the majority of people in the Western Hemisphere especially, so that they can follow the logic and therefore get into this process, which is nothing wrong about it. All I'm saying is that while that is the attempt, more scientific, typical reductionist kind of a idea to break it up and put together and propose certain hypotheses and make it what happen. So it has a great benefit for us to have something to hang on. But at the end, what may have to happen to get to the level of the deep sense of wisdom or compassion has to come with a direct experience, and that is the field of Zen. And that's what Daisetz was talking about in that book of Introduction to Zen Buddhism. So the forward 20 pages of Jung, I don't remember anymore. It was long and he tried, but I'm not sure he closed the gap in the sense that is to be really expressing the moment of awakening and the reasons why, but rather to bring the Zen into his model, like be conscious of unconscious and all that. Theoretically right, but without great experience there could be. One can argue how many people have really awakened. And to that, if I picture, it's not a huge number of people, except I can talk more about it perhaps in some other video, that there's lots of ways to be enlightened, ideas like in artists and the investors, the wise man, and even the sports person, artist, all novelists. So there are ways to express that without the model. Experientially going through deep samadhi and come up with an idea. Poetry is one example. Not just the artist and the sportsman and so forth, but also related to Zen experience, I can see in a way that awakening, as Picasso may say, I didn't do the painting. Painting is bigger than me. So it's beyond his mind. He says, I do not seek, I find. So it's listening to the heart instead of thinking the model and why it happens, how to do it. That's not the way. So that's the spark of the inspiration and the wisdom that I think we need to understand. I want to say a few more things, but I think that's good enough for this. And I hope I made a case that I see about Zen and Jung and certain level of gap in between and the reasons why. Thank you.